One of the perks and privilege that I have being BenQ Global Ambassador is that I have the opportunity to network with other BenQ ambassadors and experts in multiple creative disciplinaries. The cool thing about that is many times I get an opportunity to visit them in their studio to do an interview with them. And this is one of those great opportunities that I can share these creative experiences that I have with these other ambassadors and also expert with you. One of BenQ Ambassador that has been inspiring me for more than 2 decades now is Bert Monroy. Now, his name is the staple in the world of creative painting genre or photorealistic genre, and I think many of us know who Bert is. But if you don't know who Bert is, he is definitely an inspiring teacher that you definitely should follow. So I have the opportunity to visit Bert in his studio and we have a conversation about numerous things. So I have broken down this conversation into smaller chunks so that we can just come in, enjoy these shorter videos, see what we're talking about, see what we're discussing about, and then in the coming days, week, and month, I'll be releasing more videos of the conversation that I'm having with Bert. Some of these topics would cover, for instance, this very first one. What BenQ display does Bert use? How does he have his display set up to get into the flow to start those type of paintings? We'll have another episode talking about the detail in his work, what is inspiring him, and how has technology really benefit him in terms of new computers that are coming out that's enabling him to make larger canvases of his work now. And because AI is all around us, this conversation will also involve AI as well. There are numerous conversations where we're going to talk about AI, so that will be a set of episodes on its own. Anyway, this is the first one. Like I said, we're going to talk about BenQ displays and how Bert uses his BenQ display in his workflow. Enjoy. Before we start, subscribe if you're new and hit on the bell icon so you'll be notified every time I upload cool new videos like this. All right, so I have the privilege of visiting one of our other BenQ ambassador, Bert Monroy. He has been an inspiration to me for more than, I would probably say, like 2 decades now, even more than that. He has been at the pioneering forefront of just all these like software technologies like Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop. He's like the first person who written the book on Photoshop. I mean, if you haven't seen Bert Monroy work, I'll leave a link in the description to his work. Definitely check his work out. It's really amazing. But I have the privilege of visiting Bert in the studio. Thank you for accommodating us and
great to see you.
Allowing me to visit and catching up, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, he has so many anecdotal stories, but mostly what we're going to focus on in this particular episode is the setup that Bert have here with so many displays and how he works through his workflow with these displays. I think that's going to be the key thing we want to like take away is like, how do you get in your creative zone? How do you use these displays to enhance what you do and really just make your work that much easier? Or, you know, from what you had before with displays that are smaller with less resolution. So now you have what, 2 32-inch 4K displays?
Yeah, 34 and a 32-inch Cintiq over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started digitally. I started with that little 9-inch black and white screen on the first Mac. And the Mac 128, which is in that closet over there. And you know, along the way, I remember when the first 24-inch monitor came out, I got a migraine because I sat there, I don't know how many hours, just totally mesmerized with all this color and cool. And Pixel Paint was the program at the time. And I just ended up with a migraine because I wasn't used to staring at it.
Was that the story you told me about one time, that you were in the store and for a very long time you were just playing around with that display, like doing working color? Was that the...
Well, I wasn't in the store. I was in my studio.
Oh, that was in your studio.
Yeah,
okay.
I was in my studio. It was one of the first monitors. They had lent it to me. In fact, I had a Mac 2, the original Mac 2. Didn't have a top. Mm-hmm. They had sent me the main chassis just so I can try it out and see what I thought. Apple New York, the people from Apple New York had to come to my studio in Brooklyn to see it because they didn't have one. You know, they hadn't seen it work, so I had it. So I had this and this first 24-inch monitor. It wasn't an Apple. It was, I forget who it was. I think it was a Super Mac or somebody. And I was playing. What I did in the store was the first Mac. When I saw the Mac.
That was the one.
Yeah, I started playing with it and I thought this is really cool. And I just played, and they weren't shipping yet, but I had ordered it. So I went back and I said, can I just play with it? And they let me, because I mastered Mac Paint in the store. And they let me sit there and play because I was selling computers for them. People would come over and I'd say, oh yeah, check this out, this is what we can do. So I was selling computers for them. I didn't get a commission or anything, but they let me sit there and play. So that's where I mastered Mac Paint in the store. So when when the computer came to my studio, it's like, that's it. I was lost. I got so into it. It was, I totally captured.
But I was going to say, you're still doing that. Like, look at what I can do, and look at what you've learned. Because
and every time it just gets better.
I know exactly.
In fact, this guy here brought it all. I was traditionally trained in the tilt of the brush and so on, and then now I'm back to using a brush rather than a little mouse, because the mouse I was over here looking up there, whereas now I was looking at my hand and the flows and the kind of stuff I couldn't get with a mouse. So it went full circle to how I was traditionally trained, but now it was a digital canvas and all these viewing monitors rather than little things to look at, little pictures or something.
So I want to quickly talk about your workspace. So we have a Wacom 32-inch that this is pretty much at the center, or is it 32-inch? Or
yeah, it's a 32-inch.
This is at the center of what you do, because you directly paint on this canvas of yours that's now a digital canvas.
Yes.
And then you're using the 3 BenQ displays.
Yes, and I found out some time ago that BenQ makes a lot of the monitors for Cintiq, for Wacom.
That's awesome.
So this might be a BenQ here too. But yeah, these are the 3 BenQs that I'm usually working very close. Sometimes I could be this close on something like that. The screw, I can be really close to see what I'm creating there. So this monitor here will have the full size of the screen, not actual size of the file, but full size of the screen of the image that I'm currently working on. What happens here is reference, photograph. This one here has a bridge. Now what happens here is that I have a quick look at multiple elements that I'm working on, which in this particular case is this Aurora sign, which I see it here. So I can zoom into other parts. So like sometimes there'll be like just one building. So there'll be different angles of the building so I can look at them and very quickly. Then here's the one that best matches the angle that I'm working on so I can see what parts are visible and so on. So this is my main reference. This is my ultimate reference with everything. That's the image, full size, and then here's where I'm working. So I zoom in and out a lot. And I'm always pretty much really close because the details are so tight that I'll come in real close and see what I'm working on.
Yeah, that's super, like anything that you do, the detail is fascinating. And also seeing and hearing you talk about the different aspect that you go through to create these paintings are just really phenomenal. But I want to quickly just talk about the displays that Bert have here. So he has been BenQ Ambassador for a long time. We have the PD 3200U right there. That's a 32-inch 4K. He's been using that, and I think what was your first impression when you saw like a BenQ display that I think our common friend Vince Visage told you about it, right?
Yeah. What the first thing that impressed me is I took it out of the box and I hooked it up, and it's like, there it is. It's working. I don't have to go in there and do all kinds of modifications and stuff because I was comparing what I was seeing, what I was getting up there. It was very sharp, and that was very important for me.
Right.
The sharpness, because of the fact that the stuff I do is so tight detail that I want to be able to see that. I had tried that with the television and it just wasn't working. The colors were way off, and I wasn't getting the sharpness that I wanted from the view. So, in fact, this is the first one I got. Mm-hmm. So when I set it up, the ease of setup was so good. No need to go in there and do all kinds of modifications. Just plugged it in and boom, it worked. So right there, I liked it. That means I could recommend this and not say, wait for headaches. There's a lot of things that require a lot of headaches and go into the manual or YouTube videos or whatever. So that made it easy. So I can get right to work. There was no, here it is, I'm ready. So that was the first thing that impressed me. And the color. The color is what really got me, because the color was right on. I even took Pantone swatches and I would compare them on the screen, and they were right on. I thought that was really important for me. I was doing a lot of commercial work at that point, so it was important to have the colors that match, especially if AT&T has a certain blue and so on. So it's a Pantone color, so I have to match those exactly. So as I'm working, I was able to get the colors that I wanted. And so that was the main thing that I thought about the monitor is its color accuracy. The clearness, well, that's something that's purely for me. Most people might not care about that so much, but for me, the color was so important.
I was going to say, but we should care.
You should, yes. But some people, especially when it's a commercial work, you got a deadline, you could do just so much, So, but in my paintings, I can take all the time I want, because there's nobody standing over my shoulder making changes or telling me, you got to get this done, we got to get to the newspaper.
Understand.
So in that case, people might not get that meticulous with things. But I am, so, these things were very important to me.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely meticulous. And the other thing I want to put in as an anecdote as well is that BenQ Displays, many of the PDs and all the SWs are Pantone validated. And that's the other thing too, is that they sent the display to Pantone to get validated. And to me as a photographer, Pantone validated doesn't mean much, but for somebody who works in commercial design like yourself,
right,
that statement that you just made just pretty much said us all why having the Pantone validated display is important, because you want it to be able to match.
Yeah, you're taking a shot, and that's what the camera saw. But I'm creating something that has to match the real world. So that's why it's so crucial.
Right, and the other thing too is like, you mentioned like you don't have to go and watch YouTube and everything. Like, I'm guilty, I make a lot of guides, but that's the nice part about having these displays that are pre-calibrated as well, is that you don't really have to think about it. If you want to plug it in, get it going right away, you can. If you want more color precision, you can calibrate it, but it's not necessary something that you always have to do. It depends on the discipline that you're working in.
Yeah.
I also want to point out the other two displays as well. This is the PD 3220U. This is the flagship 32-inch 4K from BenQ that has Thunderbolt connection. And that middle one right there is always one that's really like I enjoy using. I think you do too, because you have bridge in like that widescreen mode. That is the PD 3420Q. That is a 5K 2K. So it's like a 5K resolution alongside and it's 2K on the vertical side. But the way how you integrated this, I love this, that you have the two 4K flanking your vision field, your peripheral vision, so that you can see everything. You have the screen, the white one in the middle, that's right above your Wacom, so that works really well. And I also like one of the Easter egg too, that he has a G4 Cube that is the stand for the PD 3200U right there, so it works really well as a stand too. It doesn't function anymore. He's now using a Mac Studio that's a super powerful computer.
It's right there.
And it's just sitting behind there. I hope that you find this episode enlightening and educational. Being able to visit Bert in his studio and have him walk through how he has his creative space set up and seeing how he gets into the flow is really just fantastic. I'll leave a link to Bert's website and also his YouTube channel, which contains many tutorials that you definitely should check out in the description. Make sure that you give this video a like, subscribe, and hit on the bell if you're new, because more episodes of my conversation with Bert will be coming out and in Art We Trust.